All right, let's jump right in. We're going to tackle a really fascinating puzzle today. We're going to look at some of the most widespread and honestly challenging teachings in the modern church and try to uncover this single, hidden connection that might just change how you see, well, everything. So let's get into it.
Okay, so think about these three things. You've got prosperity theology, all about wealth and health. Then there's Christian nationalism, which is way over in the world of politics and national identity. And then you have moralism, which is totally different. It's all about your personal behavior. I mean, at first glance, what could these possibly have to do with each other? Well, what if they're all just different symptoms of the same core problem? That's the big question we're exploring.
So, first up, prosperity theology. You know the one, right? It's the idea that God's main goal for you is to be rich and perfectly healthy. If you just have enough faith, you'll get those material blessings. That's piece number one of our puzzle. Then you've got Christian nationalism. This is the belief that one particular nation, say the United States, isn't just another country on the map. No, it has this unique, God-given role to play in history, almost like it's the new version of ancient Israel. So that's puzzle piece number two.
And finally, moralism. Now, this one's a little more subtle, but it's everywhere. It's the idea that Christianity is basically a self-improvement project. You know, a list of spiritual do's and don'ts to make you a better person. It operates on a totally different scale than the other two. So, seriously, how on earth could these three things be connected?
Well, here's the twist. According to our source material, the connection isn't about what these teachings add to Christianity. It's about what they leave out. They all tend to grow in the soil of a story that's just too small. A shrunken down version of what the Bible is actually talking about. The source material gives this a fancy name, a truncated cosmology. Okay, that's a mouthful, I know, but stick with me, it's actually pretty simple. Truncated just means cut short, and cosmology is just your basic map of reality, what you think is real. So the argument is that the modern church has, over time, lost the full, wild, supernatural map of the world that the biblical authors just assumed was true. Our story got too small. This is probably the best way to think about it. Imagine trying to understand a massive space epic like Star Wars, but you only ever got to see the scenes where the characters are just, hanging out in the kitchen. You'd see heroes and villains, sure, but you would completely miss the evil empire, the Force, the starships, the cosmic war that gives everything its meaning. That's the claim here. That's what's happened to how we often read the Bible. And this is where you can really see the gap. The small story we're often left with is pretty simple. It's just God, and it's us, but the actual biblical story, whoa, it's this massive cosmic drama filled with a heavenly court of divine beings, rebellious spiritual powers, and an epic, ongoing conflict for the fate of all creation. It's a much, much bigger stage.
So, if the problem is a story that's been shrunk down, the solution isn't to invent a new one. No. According to the research, the solution is to recover the original, bigger, more epic story that's been there in the text all along.
The source calls this the Divine Council Worldview, or DCW for short. And let's be clear, this isn't some new, trendy theology. It's really just a framework for reading the Bible through the eyes of the ancient authors themselves, the people for whom this cosmic drama, with its council of spiritual beings, wasn't a metaphor. It was just reality. And this quote from the source really just hits the nail on the head. This isn't about finding some new secret to unlock the Bible. It's about remembering. It's about recovering what was forgotten, that full cosmic scope of the story that the first Christians simply took for granted.
So how does this actually fix things? How does this connect back to where we started? This is where the puzzle pieces really start to snap into place. How does recovering this big story worldview actually dismantle those specific false teachings we began with?
This table just lays it out perfectly. Okay, let's break this down. First, prosperity theology. It only works if you think the world is a simple stage for God to hand out rewards. But in the bigger biblical story, this world is a contested war zone. Suffering isn't a sign your faith is weak, it's the expected reality of living in enemy-occupied territory. See the difference? Okay, next, Christian nationalism. It tries to claim a special chosen status for one modern nation. But the Divine Council Worldview makes it crystal clear that role belonged uniquely to ancient Israel. The church, by its very design, is a multinational family, drawn from every nation God is reclaiming. And finally, moralism. The idea that sin is just about your bad behavior, that gets completely reframed. In the big story, sin is a state of cosmic captivity. It's being held prisoner by hostile spiritual powers.
So the gospel isn't just about forgiveness for bad choices, it's about liberation from an enemy.
So here's the bottom line. Once you see the full picture, the cosmic war, the heavenly beings, God's grand plan to reclaim all of creation, the logic that holds up these smaller, distorted stories just falls apart. They lose their power because they're no longer believable. But this isn't just about playing defense, It's not just about correcting bad ideas. The argument here is that embracing this bigger, more ancient worldview actually creates a more robust, more engaged, and way more biblically faithful church. So what does a church with this bigger story actually look like? Well, for starters, it takes the supernatural world seriously, but without being gullible or weird about it. It reframes things like pursuing justice. That's not just a political activity anymore. It's an act of spiritual warfare against cosmic powers of oppression and darkness. It pushes the church to engage with the world because this is the very place God is reclaiming, not some sinking ship we're trying to escape from. And it grounds our identity as a truly global, multinational community that has a central role in a story that's bigger than any one nation or culture. And that really brings us to the core takeaway of this whole analysis. The deepest need isn't for a brand new set of doctrines. It's for the recovery of that full supernatural map of reality that the Bible presents from page 1 all the way to the end. So we'll just leave you with this one question to think about. When you open up your Bible, with all of its strange and supernatural events, all its angels and demons and cosmic weirdness, is the story you currently believe in big enough to actually hold all of it? Thanks for tuning in.